day from my show you what I know about it. It's not using once you get your mind around it. Just do something very, very simple. But you can also do negative painting in many different ways. You can use all sorts of paint. It just doesn't have to be the watercolor. Also do it in acrylic. You could try it in colored pencil. A little bit. It would be a little more difficult. You'd have to do a very light hand, but it could be done. So I guess thanks. Glad you're here. Hope you're having a fantastic day. So this is what we did last time. So if you want to look for this, it's last Tuesday. Hi, Nancy. And it was fun, and there was a downloadable for this one. Now, what we're going to do this week is you can either draw your own leaves. We're going to be doing leaves, very simple leaves, not too jagged or anything. Stick to a very simple shape. You don't have to do leaves. You could do circles, triangles, shapes of fish or something like that if you wanted to. What I'm going are stencils. I have this stencil, and I also have a stencil that I made myself. I'm going to be using this one and this. Use one, that would be fine too. This is a very good idea when you're first trying to do this technique, because then you can see through the other leaves as you build up the layers. Now, to start off, you want some very light washes, and you're going to want your paper to be fully wet. Let's see. Now I'm going to big brush up here or not. Sorry, just trying to see what I got here. I only have a few brushes up here, so let's see. Yep, got a bigger brush. Okay. So for wetting your paper, and you want it really wet, this is a number 10 silver black velvet, and get a fairly large brush, and I've got clean water to the side here, and I'm just gonna wet my paper. I want the whole thing really wet. So you want to make sure your edges are all covered in water also, because you don't want any funny marks. Okay, so I've already sprayed my palette. Let's see. I don't know if this is going to show up. Nope, I don't think it's going to show. What can I put here? Okay, I'm going to just, because it's leaves, you can do them for fall scene, or you could just pick it up. There's no special colors that you have to abide by, but don't use too many colors because it's muddy. So I'm going to use a, what's this one here? This is Hooker's Green. Got a nice amount. I want it fairly watered down for this part. Because my page, just make sure it stays wet. Just take a, I have mine taped down so it's not going to curl as much. Okay, so I'm going to just throw some of this around. This is the fun part. Just throw a bunch of pigment on. Let's do this really bright green here. I think this is a gold green. It's very, very, very bright. It's not really showing in the, just going to throw some of that in. Let's see. I think I might even put a little bit of alizarin crimson. Just a bit here and there. Now your red and green will give you a brown, but I don't mind that. Okay. Now I am on a bit of a tilt. I'm working on my drafting table. So you can let it roll around. This is just your base color for this technique. So you can just let it flow into each other. Just have fun with it. If you want some edges that are a little maybe too muddy, you don't want as much of a buildup. If you get pools, just wipe it with a cloth or a dry brush. And you want it to be fairly dry. Now, when this starts to dry up, you don't want pools of water on the bottom or in have a little bit of buckling. You don't want those to stay dry or wet while the around dry. You'll get blooms. Unless you like blooms. You could use blooms in this one, actually, because it is your first layer. Okay, so I'm just going to dry this because I like it the way it is. All right, it's pretty dry. You want to make sure it's not real damp because you'll get blooms if you put anything else on. Now, as you can see, it lightened up quite a bit, but that's what you want. And now, we're just starting out with somebody doing these, it's best to draw these out. Now you could either use a color pencil or a graphic pencil, but HB, you don't want to put too dark because you don't want to have to erase any of this. Now the result of this, my painting is going to be fairly dark in the background, so I'm not too worried about it. But you can do this without using a stencil. You could make up your leaves as you go, but to just do this for the first year, if you have some kind of a stencil or a mask to trace. So I want some of my leaves to go over the edge because that just looks interesting. And I've got an HB. This is a Staedtler. I like Staedtler. And I'm just going to trace my stencil. Now I made this stencil myself. You can get any kind of plastic material from packaging will work. You could get, there is file keepers that are kind of a plastic material. You could use those. You could even, if you have a Cricut or some kind of a cut machine, you could cut your own too. But I find doing the drawing on here first, it helps you from getting confused of where things are. Okay. So I got one there, and I've got this other one here. It's a little bit smaller, and I think I'm going to put it maybe right here. Just putting a few in. You don't have to do all the stencil. You can just do bits and pieces. If you don't want to do the botanical look, you could do this with geometric patterns. That would look really cool too. Just play with it. Just remember though, the more intricate the outline is, the more difficult the painting around it can be. Okay, so I have that there. Let's see. I'm gonna have the stem curve around here, I think. So there was a leaf there, so I'm gonna remember that. This is the stem. There. So you can make these made up if you want to do that, not use a stencil, or if you don't have a stencil, just make them up. Connect that there. That comes down like this. Let's see. That. I'm going to, I think that was the way I got it. Like that. It didn't come out quite as dark as I wanted it. Fix it. Okay, so I've got that, and I've I've got a leaf here that's just, I think I'll put in here. I'll just draw around it. So you can use masks or stencil. Doesn't matter. You could cut some out with cardboard if you wanted to. All right, so now I want you to take a brush that we have a lot of small areas, so you don't want a brush that's too big to work into those small areas. Took for my computer to start. Oh, well, you'll enjoy this one, Janet. Negative painting. I love negative painting. So now I want to take a color and try to stick with the colors you've background, but just increase the value, which is the light or darkening of a pigment. So you want to darken some of these areas. So you're not putting enough on to make it opaque. It's still transparent, but you want it a couple shades darker than what's on the background right now. So what we want to do is paint all of the negatives of this that we drew on here. Do not paint on the positive image, just the background. So you can take any color you want. I'm going to use this, or maybe I'll even mix a color too. I could do that. So I have the Poker's Green here. And where did I put it? There it is. I can intensify that a little bit. I could add some of this green to it. You always want to go a little darker. That's a nice color, actually. I like this. So I think I'm going to add more of this. But stick to the colors you have. You can change the hue a little bit if you want, but don't go to a completely different color. Okay, let's try this. See, and test it out. Maybe it won't be the right color. You can, excuse me. You can always ombre it too if you wanted to. I recommend, if you haven't done this, to stick to one color. So now I want to just paint around those areas that I put in there. Now you could just keep the area dark around them and then just walk it out slightly if you want. Let's see. This can be done in so many different ways. And once you get started playing with negative painting, it's very addictive. There's so much you can do. Now, some people like to wet their area and just drop color in. You can do that too. It just gives you a little bit of a different effect in the watercolor. I'll do one side or the bottom part that way and show you what the difference is. But it is fun. A lot of times people that do a lot of florals will do it this way. Now, if I wet this bottom area with clean water, now when you're wetting with clean water, you got to make sure you wet all of the area because it will show that wet line where the wet and the dry end from your brush. It will show that line, and you don't want that. So this, depending on, you know, what effect you want, how dark. Myself, I like doing this in wet on dry, because I just find it a little bit easier to go around everything. But try them both out. Try wet on wet and wet on dry. See what you like. This is all about experimenting, what I'm showing you. Don't think that you have to have it exactly like mine. Experiment. See what you can make up. And don't worry if you go over a line or you miss something. All plants are different, so you can make things up as you go. It's very relaxing. It's almost like Zen tangling to me when you do this. You could probably do some of this too. I have seen it done where they Zentangle in the areas with a colored pen, or they just use the black marker after they're done and they Zentangle in those more positive areas, so the leaves and the branches. See how it shows through? I think we did this once before with fish. Yeah, I think I did. I've done it a few times. I think I did one with people too. It's fun. You just have to get your mind wrapped around on the way it's done. There's so many ways, but for beginners, I would suggest just using the one color. Once you get familiar with it and comfortable with it, you could start doing in the background wherever the darker or wherever the different colors are, you paint those areas in the darker color. So there's so many ways you can play with this, and you'll get a different effect each time. It's kind of fun because the paint is transparent. So when you're using like this, I have a red and a green. If I were to put more green on the red, you kind of get a brownish color. And when you get more of the red, you'll get a brownish color on the green, but your reds will be brighter. So it's fun to see what the different colors will do when they're topped with another color. Now I could go back after I'm done this one color and actually put in some red in certain areas by doing a wet on wet. But each time you do this, you have to dry your your paper. You don't want to do this when it's just starting to dry and then add some more to it. You'll end up with a lot of blooms, and you don't want that. Let's make some more up here. Try and get as much paint made up too if you're using just one color. Okay, so that's the first layer. So it's wet, so I want to dry it. All right, so now we want to take that stencil again and draw some more leaves. I'm going to put my pencil. So the same stencil. This time I think I'm going to put a little bit more a leaf or a branch coming down here instead. So now what is to draw. I should have something. Let's see. To sharpen my pencil. You want to draw in the background of these leaves that are already on it. So whenever your stencil or mask comes to an area where there's a leaf, don't draw over top of it. Pretend that leaf is on top, so it's not going to show in that area. So got an area there, here. That comes down here. Here. You start adding, you get quite a few lines. So that's why I said don't get something too complicated, because there's a lot of small areas, because the more layers, the smaller the areas will be. So I'm not going over my lightest leaves. Okay. That. We'll do you don't have to do the whole stencil. You can just do bits too. Let's do one here. I'm just going to put a couple leaves in. Let's see. So I'm not going over my light areas, just in the background. Okay, like that. And I think I'll take this one and we'll put this here, I think. So the lightest areas, don't go over them. So you're working from the foreground back. Okay, and there. Okay. And then you take your brush again, and this time you want it to be a little darker than your last layer. So I'm going to take, let's see, that's a 10. There it is. So I want to take a little more of this really dark Hooker's green. And I'm going to add some of that bright green to it. Let's see how much of a difference we get. I want this to be stronger now. I'm new, never thought of using a stencil. Hey, Gret. Yep, I show all kinds of little ideas to make it a little bit easier on beginners. Okay, so now we have to paint around those light areas plus the area we just drew in. Now this is a little bit too dark. Don't mind it. So I'm going to lighten it up a little bit. Don't go real dark all at once. Okay, that's there. That's why, see how it's getting a little more complicated, the design? So you kind of have to pay attention with the overlaps of the leaves and what's what. And again, that's why I said don't go too complicated with the line work of your leaf. Like I wouldn't personally do a maple leaf, say, because it has a lot of points and in and out, and it could really get confusing on what's what. So stick to just a few basic shapes. Now this is getting a little dark here. So you just keep getting darker and darker on each one, each application, new level or that you go on. Let's bring that down a little bit. Let's see. And it depends on how many layers you want to do, how complicated you want to look. The other thing you can do, which is kind of fun, is do splatters. And then the splatters even look different when you paint over them. But it gives the leaves a little bit of textured look to them. It's really cool. But this is just the basics of learning how to do this. After this, you can go crazy if you wanted to. So it's endless, really, possibilities of doing this. There's quite a few artists that do this. Some that just do negative painting in watercolor. There's a few. And their work is very, very complicated looking. But it's so amazing to just to stand there and look at their work. It's like, wow. And when you know how to do it, you realize it's really not that difficult, but it does look very complicated. You could use this for abstract art also. Would you do the splatters on the first? Yeah, I would do them on the actually, I'd probably do them on the second layer, but on everything. Because you're not going to be painting the first layer. So I would do the second layer probably. I think you would have more defined look to it if you did that. Let's see. Piece here. It does get pretty complex looking after a while. Now, this doesn't mean you can't paint the positive areas. You can do that too. But this is just about the basics of negative painting. We could get into that, like a really complex, later on. We'll do one. Just to get the hang of this, I think this is probably enough to do. Okay, I think I missed a spot here. That there. And there's one there. You could also put salt on if you wanted in certain areas. That would look cool too. Let's see. Just reading chat. I'm painting along now. Positive flowers. Awesome. Gret. Not sure what will happen. It's just paper, Gret. We can always do it again. You can always do it again. This is how we learn. If you sit and procrastinate and not do it because you don't think you can do it the way you want first time, then you're never going to do it. I've been listening to a bunch of people on YouTube and blogs, and they've been talking about they're having a lack of creativity. They feel that they're being held back by their inner critic. And I started thinking about it and my journey and what I experienced. And for me, this is what my thoughts are of that particular thing. For me, I found that I got out of that and progressed in my art a lot faster when I realized it wasn't about the finished product that I was going for. It was about the process of doing it and learning. And that's what I love the most, is learning how to do things. If it doesn't work out, I learned something. I learned not to do something. I learned to do something. And if you can find a way of stopping yourself from grading your work by the finished product and just enjoy the process of doing, you'll find yourself advancing in your art a lot faster. Nobody's going to criticize your work It's just for you. This is why I love doing stuff in journals. It's experimenting, and that's what I love to do. Oh, see now. Oh no, maybe that's a different one. Yeah, it must be. This one and this one kind of look funny. I think I probably messed up there, but that could be part two. Well, we'll leave it. Okay, let's dry that piece now. Just make sure your tape is good and adhered to your paper. Sometimes when you use the hot on the heat gun or whatever you're using, it'll lift the glue stops adhering to it because it kind of melts it. So, okay. Now, where's my... Okay, here's one of those. No, I think I'll do the... So I'm going to put another layer down. I think I need a stem up here. Now you might have to press a little harder if you can't see it. Remember, you're trying to stay away from all those areas that you've already painted around. So you're going to have to pay attention to those areas. And this is when they start to get really small and minute. That one. Around there. That one. Nope. And that's all for there. And draw a few in here. This is when it starts to really look cool. There. There. Here. All right. Sometimes you just kind of have to do your own thing when you're getting to this part. Now we want a really nice dark color, so I'm going to take that green, Hooker's green, Add a little bit of water to it. I want it fairly dark. Now you could add a little bit of, if you want it really dark, let's see how dark this is. First, we'll test it. And I think, let's see. Let's make sure there's no water on my ferrule. Don't want to blob. Yeah, it's pretty good. Now we want a nice dark color. So this is when we get into the really tiny little areas. Those are the areas that make the painting pop. See that and that. How did I do that? That goes over here. Trying to find all my areas here. Let's see, I had that one like that. No. How did I have that? Here, like that. Okay. There it is. Okay. It's down there to there. A lot of times you kind of have to improvise. If it's not looking right, maybe you need a little bit of other shape in an area that's got too much background. You can always add a stem or something like that. Let's see that there. And that. You need a really good point on your brush too. See how you're getting the depth now? Hey, Tori. Hey, Joan. That's all right. No worries. That's why I have it recorded, because everybody's got lives. Can't be sitting here watching all the time. Now I think I might even add a leaf in here, or maybe you'll bring this little bit of stem there. I'm going to bring it down. So I'm just going to add a little bit more to the pattern. Same with this area. Maybe I'll put a leaf in there. It's a little bear in the background, so let's spruce it up with the addition of another leaf. So maybe it comes up like this. That. And that, I think, was part of a leaf there. And there. Maybe there's another stem going up here. Or branches. You could put branches in too. Oh, that's part of the leaf. See, it gets a little confusing the more levels or layers you put on. You just kind of have to take your time. How did I go? I think this here. Concentrating. I have an appointment at 1:30, so I have to leave. That's okay, Janet. You can watch it anytime. No problem. Just thanks for coming and joining us for the amount of time you could. I appreciate it. This is just something that I like to do and help you guys in your creativity. You know, there's a lot of people that are streaming, so no problem about when you can be here. Totally understand. Enjoy your, even though it's an appointment, enjoy your time out. Okay, let's see. That one I think needs to be dark. I might think that's a leaf under there. I might be taking artistic license here and adding a few things to it. But that's fine because that's how we learn. All right, so I think I might have this dark here. And around there. This can be dark. I think I'm going to bring this like that. And you can fix up little areas too. If something's not making sense. Make sure your areas that you're fixing up is dry. You don't want to put stuff in that's damp because you'll get a bloom. I think here. And this needs to be a little darker. That. Okay, so then let's dry that. Okay, so let's take a look at this and see what we could possibly improve. So we could actually, what you can do also, besides adding, you can also take away. So say you wanted some more stems in the background or leaves or something, you could actually just take clean water and use a rag or paper towel, Kleenex, whatever you have. And let's put some lines in here. And you can extract. So let's put a bunch of lines just to give a little more appeal. Say we have some in here. You can make it really complex looking by doing this. Because depending on the paint you're using will depend on how easily it lifts. Some don't lift as well as others, so you gotta think about that. You can make some even lighter by repeatedly going over them. The more you go over them, the lighter they will get. It just gives it a little more interest when you do this. Kind of looks like a bunch of sticks, bush area, whatever. Now I can even go on top of this leaf here and make it look like it's over top of it. See, let's put one in here, I think. You don't want to rub it. If there's any areas you want more leaves in, let's try something with a small leaf. One of these tiny ones, maybe. Let's see, right here. Okay. And then what you can do is to make that more clear looking, just add some of that dark negative painting around it. And you just touch up some areas, and by adding more of that dark color in certain areas, darken the background a little bit more. You could make more lines for deeper values as sticks. So the darker you get, the deeper it looks. Don't put too many in though, that are like big areas, because then it's very easy to get carried away doing this. See how it it grows. It gets more and more interesting the more you, I guess, add darker areas and more complex things. Thanks, Val. You could also add little holes in some of the background leaves if you wanted to. And you can do any color you want. I get called away and just returned. It's amazing. Thanks, Nancy. It's just deeper and deeper you go with the color, the more depth you get. Let's see. Now you can lighten. Maybe you don't have enough color in some areas. You could always just add a bit of color to it. So, or you could take away color. Let's see, this one here is kind of blah. So let's put this a little bit darker in here. Same with this one here. Maybe it needs a little bit. Right in here, maybe a little bit more. So just, you don't have to finish it all in one day either. A lot of times it's a good idea to put it aside for a couple hours, go have a coffee, that type of thing, go for a walk, or just come back to it another day. And sometimes you'll look at it and think, nope, I need more color, or I need more depth in it, or whatever. So don't always think you have to finish it off in one day. Remember, this is enjoying the process of art. So it's not necessarily getting something done right away. It's enjoying what you're doing, what counts the most. That's how you're going to improve as an artist, by enjoying what you're doing. It gives you more confidence in yourself when you enjoy what you're doing. Okay, Nancy, have a good day. All right, so let's dry that and see what we got. Right, now, if you want, you can also add more detail to the existing top leaves if you want. You don't have to, but it can be done. Now, I don't know if I've got enough pigment on, but I know if you take clean water and go down your leaf, one side, and then if you go down the other side, but leave a dry mark where the center line would be, that will leave a watermark where the vein would be, and you didn't have to draw it in. Now, I don't know if I have enough pigment on. We'll see what it'll do, but a lot of times you will be able to get a really cool line. Let's try it on this one, because it'll go towards that drier area. Don't know if I have enough water on it or not. We'll see. Did a little bit. I don't know if you can see this one here. See the line? If you do that a little more often, you can actually get a really cool line on there. Or you can just take a very fine brush, wet your center line, you could do this with a watercolor pencil too. Just take some of that green mix, and with the tip of your brush, go down the center and let it bleed in. Oh, not enough. leave a nice blurred area of the leaf. And then you could either, depending on what kind of leaves they are, you could put more in if you want. I don't want those little marks there, so take them away. Let's do this one here. Doesn't have to be a lot, could be just a suggestion. Let's put a little more in there. This one up here. Let's see. A little bit on that one. A little more on this one, I think. And this one. Hey, Judy. And you could just leave it at that, or you could do the same thing but a darker paint color in these ones too. Let's just do a few and I'll show you what they look like. Because you're not lifting anything from these leaves. You're just adding on wet. Sometimes it's just nice to leave some areas. This one's bothering me. I think this has to be wrong. So I'm going to make this one darker. Didn't look right to me. Okay. And then you can just, fix up the edges. Some of the edges might be a little ratty like this here. And you just clean them up a little bit. It's very, very relaxing doing this type of watercolor. depending on, how detailed and how far you want to go with it. But yeah, it's fun. All right, so we'll dry that and take off the paper and see what we got, or the tape. Other. All right. Now peeling your tape, pull it to the side. Don't pull it down, pull it to the side. That way it's less apt to pull your paper and rip it. And there it is. It always looks nice once it's out of the tape. So there's the finish. Now you can have it. You could add a bug to that if you wanted to. Like this could be part of the beginning of a Devin. Kathy, is it okay if I use the same cup for water brush as acrylic brush as long as? Yep, that's fine. I do that as long as you did a really good cleaning and there's no residue left from the acrylics. That's fine. I don't have separate water containers. And you should be washing your brushes anyway. So like after you're done, just make sure you give them a good shampoo with some soap. Now you could also, with these, you could also really do the details on with colored pencil if you wanted to, or if you have any of those Zig Real Brush watercolor markers, that also is a great detail paint. So if you wanted some really fine lines, you could do that. Awesome, Devin. I hope you posted. I'd love to see. Hi, Dorothy. Thanks. Okay, so I hope you guys give this a try, because as I showed with using stencils or masks, it's not that difficult, and I know you guys can do it. Thanks, Joan. And you can use whatever color you want. It doesn't have to be greens. You could, but don't go into too many colors. That's the thing. I recommend for beginners only use what's it called? Analogous colors. So the greens into the blues, or the greens, you could go, say, green, blue, and a bit of yellow, or you can go into the warmer shade on the other side of the color wheel, which is the reds, yellow, that type of thing. And that way you're not going to get mud. So stick to about 3 colors to start with. And then when you get the hang of it, then you can go into more colors. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad you came here, and thank you so much for supporting the channel. And if you're new, make sure to hit subscribe and the bell so you can get notifications. I'm here every Tuesday for watercolor. If you're interested in mixed media and acrylic painting, I'm on every Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern also. So get your papers out, guys. Enjoy the process of being creative. Don't worry about the end result. Enjoy the process. Have a good day, everybody.